Hi there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Shelly and I am a scrapbooker. And today's video is going to be a little bit different. I am going to talk about process that I use when I am starting a new themed album. I am specifically talking about trips, vacation albums, but I think this process could be used on any album as long as you are working with a completed set of photos. If this is a as you're going, add to it type of situation, it really won't work. But if you have a folder with a big collection of photos in it and you just want to kind of get a handle on um, what you're going to do in the album and how big it's going to be and how you're going to keep on track, that is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I am not actually going to be doing a process video. There's not going to be any scrapbooking here. It's only going to be talking. So, you know, you have to make your choices about whether or not you want to keep watching. I have used this same process for 4 or 5 albums now, and it has worked really well for me. I actually started this process out of necessity. I had started 2 albums, one being a road trip to Maine, like a New England road trip, and one was a Disney trip from 2015. And in both cases, I had more than 2,700 photos for each trip. I think that Maine was my first big trip album, and so I just started scrapbooking pages willy-nilly. I was at a travel themed crop that was put on by one of my friends, and she had some challenges that if you got tickets or something if you did this certain kind of layout. So I was just, you know, willy-nilly through this album. And I kind of did the same thing with the Disney trip. I was scrapbooking the things that I wanted to scrapbook and not going in any kind of order. And I just ended up with a bunch of random pages. And then both of those albums got set aside for quite a while. In the case of the New England road trip, it was actually set aside for several years, I'm ashamed to say, where I didn't touch it at all. And then I don't think it was last year, I think it was the year before. I pulled it out and I wanted to finish it because I had a chunk of it done, but I wanted to complete it so that I could move on to other things without feeling guilty about it. So I mean, it was just a mess. I didn't know where to start. I had like pre-printed photos and they were tucked into empty page protectors. And I started this process as a way to kind of get a little bit of control and clarity about what I needed to do next. And it worked so well that I've just kept using it. Now, don't get me wrong, I have not invented some amazing top secret step-by-step program or anything like that. It's just logical steps that I use that helps me feel like I'm better in the know about what I'm doing. And the first thing that I do is I open up my photo storage app or website. I happen to use Google Photos. I have all of my trips organized into albums. And I also, me and the people that I travel with, we share our photos. So I have my photos and I have Gina's photos. And if her husband went with us, he's very good. He's a very good scrapbooking husband. He will take photos sometimes too and send them to us. And so I have them all in there together. And the first thing I do is I make a list. Now, this is an example of my list for the Smoky Mountains, and this is the one that I made for 2015 Disney, and it is literally just day one. And using my photos and the timestamps, I go through and I write down, this is everything that we did in order. Now, I might not scrapbook them that way, but I just want to know all the things that need to be included. So this is not where the details go. This is not where the timestamps go. This is just, you know, what happened and when. The next step that I do is I like to expand upon this. And this step was particularly helpful in the situation where I had set my album aside for several years because, I opened it up and there's just some photos and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here or where we were. So did I don't know if this was the very first one that I used this method on. And I don't know if I did the list part. I may have just started with this part because this is kind of incorporated into this. And this is 6 pages of journaling, everything we did. Friday, July 15th was packed and ready to go. I finished packing at 2:41 a.m. I put timestamps in here. I do my research on what was the name of that hotel? What was the name of that restaurant that we went to? What was the name of the road that we were taking? Timestamps for when we stopped at the rest area. I mean, everything that I can find out that I might need, I wrote down in here. Now, this is not written in beautiful, I can cut and paste and use it as my journaling. This is the story, the whole thing based on my photos, what happened day by day. And this was a road trip, so it was like me flying no, this is me packing. This is me flying to see my friend Gina. This is Sunday, July 17th, day one. We drove from Aberdeen to Boston, and then this is what happened on that day. And then Monday, July 18th, day two, we drove from Boston to Portland. And then this is what happened on that day, where we stopped, where we ate, all of that kind of stuff. And it really helped me mentally get back into what I was scrapbooking about. And it helped me remember things that I might have forgotten otherwise. And it just helps me know what I need to include. And some of it I don't include. Like I don't, get so detailed often where I put we drove on highway A1A or 1A or whatever it's called, but I just like to know that information and it's fun to remember. In this case, the hotel that we stayed at in whatever the little town was that we stayed at, it actually isn't called the same thing anymore. So I had to like kind of do a deep dive on the internet to find out what the name of our hotel was. And I enjoyed that and I felt satisfaction. Ellsworth is where we stayed. And I felt satisfaction whenever I figured out, oh, yes, that is what it was called. So that is my second step. And then the third step is the one that I like the most. And it comes with varying degrees of detail. That is laying out the pages. Now, I have had different variations on this little worksheet here. This is the one that I'm using currently, most recently, but I have used other variations previously. Here are some of the ones that I use. This is actually the same trip 2 different times for Disney, and they were smaller boxes, and I had places to write notes. But for the trip that I'm working on now, I wanted to be able to draw in more details, so I actually made the boxes a little bit bigger. And if you would like, I will put a link in the description box to this as maybe both of these as a PDF so you can download it and use it if you would like. I will show you how I use it in a minute. And I do use it to uh, with varying degrees of detail. Now, on this particular one, this was the Disney 2015, you can see where some of the pages I sketched out. This was one of those trips where I had already scrapbooked some of the pages. So, like these were ones that they were already done, but I needed to know what do I need, what's before it that still needs to be done, and that was these pages. And then these were all done, but then when I got here, none of this had been done. Now, this is what I mean by varying degrees of detail. In these pages, I didn't sketch out anything at all. I just wrote down gorillas, zebras, hippos, what I wanted to scrapbook on each of these pages. Then, see, here's some more. These were done. These were done. And I did mark them off as I went. And this is, this is Magic Kingdom here. This is Magic Kingdom. And then I didn't even use this one on the third day. I ended up making it again. And this was me planning it out before I went to a crop. And I wanted to know exactly what I was scrapbooking. So these pages, which are, I just redrew this one on a piece of paper at work, were very detailed because I wanted to know what size am I going to print these photos? How am I going to lay these photos out? Where am I going to put my journaling? This was some ideas on how to do a rock and roller coaster layout. So that is what I use these for, to keep track of where my layouts are, and if I want to, sketch out in detail what's going on there. That is what is happening here. This is my script that I'm getting started on is actually what I'm going to talk about in maybe my next video. It's either going to be my next video or the video after that. This is my new Disney trip, and I'm trying a new style, and I'm really excited about it. But this trip and the fact that I just finished this Disney trip is one of the reasons why I feel free to experiment a little with this one, because this is 3 fat binders of traditional 2-page spreads or 1-page layouts combined. And I didn't really feel the need to start again at the beginning and just do that over again. So this is going to be a little bit of a different take on it, and I'm excited about it. But these pages here you can use to plan out looking at your photos again. You open up your photos again and you go, okay, I have 3 photos of the entrance sign when we arrived, you know, far away, medium distance, and then really close up. And I want to include them on this page. And then sometimes it happened, especially on here, when I started getting to these pages where like I had uh, Star Tours. Well, I did not have enough photos to do like a 2-page spread on Star Tours. The Little Mermaid. All my pictures of the Little Mermaid ride were blurry. I don't think that I scrapbooked that at all, to be completely honest. Toy Story. I thought I was going to do a 2-page spread, but I ended up not. And the fact that I had this drawn out, I was actually able to move things around to make them fit because if you have a 1-page, only enough photos for a 1-page here, but then the next thing you have is enough for 2 pages. Well, they're not going to sit next to each other. That's not going to work out. And I know ahead of time going into it, oh, I'm going to have to switch some things around because that is not going to work. And I just really find it helpful. Another thing that I like about it is that on these massive um, albums, it kind of lets me see, hey, there's light at the end of this tunnel. Like I am actually making progress. Here's all that I have done. Here is the end. It's not going to be going on forever. And I really did enjoy that aspect, especially on this trip as I got closer and closer to the end. It was really great to be able to go, oh, only 7 layouts left, only 6 layouts left, because I was so sick. I love Disney, but I was so sick of scrapbooking this 10, 11-year-old trip when I had this 2-year-old trip that I wanted to scrapbook. I was counting down the pages. Seriously, that's what this is here. I was just like, oh, it's got to go. It's got to go. So I was very excited to finish. But this is the current style or layout that I'm using for this page. And like I said, I'll link it in the description box below. And I am using it. This is how I am using it to plan out where things are going to go, what size my photos need to be. I do my photo printing at home, and you know, I need to know what size I want to print them so that I can get everything on the page that I want to get on the page without having to turn it into multiple pages. So that is why I like to use these pages. And there have been times, the reason why I have two sets, actually I have three, but I have two sets of this one from Disney, and it's because I misplaced one or left one at home. And so I started over again because I just feel so much more comfort when I know what's going on. And see, these is, I was just trying to keep things in order at this point. There's no sketching out at all here. It's just keep track of what's going to go where in this case. A lot of these pages were already done whenever I started. Here are some blank ones at the back. So on my latest album, my latest project, this is my new Disney trip. I have been using it to really do some detailed planning. And I am excited to work on this. It's going to be a little bit of a different style. Again, I did not invent anything. I am just planning to combine, I guess, a 12 by 12 traditional scrapbook page with more of a travel journal type of feel. So they're not going to be all like, here's a two-page spread about the tiki room. Here's a two-page, but there will be some of those. But there are a lot of other photos that I take that end up getting cast aside because they don't fit. I need a beautiful two-page spread mold. And so using this method here, which again I will talk about in my next video, I have I'm trying something new and I'm excited about it. So anyway, that is my process that I use when planning albums. To make my itinerary slash list of things that we did, detail out the journaling, as much detail as possible, and then use something like this. You can just draw it on a plain white piece of paper or a notebook paper. It doesn't have to be something like this that's pre-printed, and then sketch out my pages in order, looking at my photos and going, you know what? I only have two photos of this certain thing. I'm only going to need a one-page spread, or I have 25 photos of this uh, certain thing. I'm going to need 3 pages, or this is actually what helped me decide for my Smoky Mountains trip for Dollywood and for the train ride. You know what? I don't want to make 6 pages about Dollywood when really it was only a very small part of that trip. We were only there for part of one day. I didn't want it to be this massive multi-page section of that album. So by looking at where it was going to go and how many photos were included, that's what made me go, you know what? I can use cascading pages for this. And still only use my two-page spread, but get all those photos on there. So that is really my process. Link to uh, I will link to this one for sure. If I can find the one with the smaller the lines, I will link to it as well. And let me know if you have a process that you follow when you are starting a new album, or if you just wing it. Do you scrapbook your trips chronologically, or do you jump around based on, your mood and your feelings at the time? I am very interested to know how other people keep track of what's going on in their albums. So thank you for listening to me talk for 20 minutes if you have listened to this whole thing. And I will see you next week in another video. Bye.